The fluorescent lights of the 49th floor cast long shadows across polished marble. It was nearly midnight. Vivian Monroe stood by the window of her corner office, arms crossed, watching a man in a gray uniform mop the floor near her desk. Her lips curved into a cold smile. "If you can open this safe, I'll marry you." The man looked up. He didn't laugh, didn't ask if she was serious. He simply set down his mop, walked over to the antique safe that had sat unopened in her office for 18 years, and placed his hand on the lock. One twist, one click. The door swung open. Vivian's smile vanished. Inside the safe was a past she thought she'd buried forever. Alex Carter was 38 years old and invisible. That's what happens when you wear a gray uniform and push a cleaning cart through corporate hallways at 2 in the morning. People look through him, past him, never at him. He'd been working the night shift at Monroe Corp for 3 months. Before that, he'd worked at a hospital. Before that, a hotel. Always the same job. Always the same silence. His hands were calloused from years of manual labor. His face was weathered, lines etched deep around his eyes from sleepless nights. But those eyes held something most people missed. Intelligence, precision, a sharpness that came from a life spent understanding how things worked, how they broke, how they locked, how they opened. Alex hadn't always been a janitor. 10 years ago, he'd been one of the country's leading security engineers. He designed vault systems for banks, government facilities, private collectors. His name appeared on patents. His safes were considered unbreakable. Industry publications wrote articles about his innovations. Then his younger brother tried to rob a jewelry store. Not one of Alex's designs, but the security system was similar enough. Something went wrong. The vault door sealed with his brother inside. A malfunction, a flaw no one had anticipated. His brother suffocated before anyone could get him out. Alex walked away from everything after that. From the career he'd built, from the accolades and recognition, from the world of locks and codes. He couldn't build cages anymore. Not when he knew what it felt like to be trapped. Not when he understood that every security system was also a potential tomb. Now he had a daughter, Ellie, 7 years old. Brown hair that curled at the ends just like her mother's used to. Her mother who'd left when Ellie was 2. Walked out one morning while Alex was at work and never came back. No explanation, no goodbye, just gone. Alex raised Ellie alone. He worked nights so he could be there when she woke up. Made her breakfast every morning, walked her to school holding her small hand, came home and slept fitfully while she was in class, picked her up every afternoon at 3:15 sharp, helped with homework at the kitchen table, made dinner, read bedtime stories in different voices, tucked her in and kissed her forehead, then left for work again. It was a small life, a quiet one. A life most people would pity, but it was theirs, and he'd learned something important. The smallest locks are often the hardest to open, like a child's trust after abandonment, like your own heart after it's been shattered. Vivian Monroe was 32 and untouchable. She'd built walls so high that even she couldn't see over them anymore. She was beautiful in the way ice sculptures are beautiful. Perfect, cold, elegant, likely to shatter if you got too close. People admired her from a distance, respected her, feared her. No one dared approach. She'd taken over Monroe Corp 2 years ago when her father died suddenly. Heart attack. At 59. One moment, he was giving a presentation to the board. The next moment, he was on the floor, dead before the ambulance arrived. He'd groomed Vivian for leadership her entire life, taught her that sentiment was weakness, that emotions were liabilities, that the only thing that mattered was control. Complete, absolute, unquestioning control. She believed him. She had to. Her mother had died, when Vivian was 9. Cancer, swift and merciless. She was healthy one year, gone the next. Before she passed, Eleanor Monroe had locked something away in an old safe. A safe that Vivian's father claimed he couldn't open. He said he'd tried everything. Brought in experts, locksmiths from across the country, safe crackers with decades of experience, engineers with cutting torches. No one could break it. Eventually, he stopped trying, moved the safe to storage, forgot about it. When he died, Vivian inherited the safe, along with everything else. The company, the estate, the legacy, the loneliness. She'd moved it from storage to her office 3 days ago. Not because she wanted to open it, but because she wanted to prove she didn't care what was inside. It was just metal, just a box, just another thing her mother had left behind that meant nothing. She'd even joked about it in a company-wide email. A dare, a challenge. Anyone who could open it would get dinner with the CEO. She knew no one would try. She knew it was impossible. Every expert her father hired had failed, until the janitor did it in less than a minute. The safe door hung open like a wound. Vivian stared into the darkness inside, like she was staring into a grave. Her breath came short and shallow. Her hands trembled. Inside, there was no money, no jewelry, no stock certificates or legal documents, just 3 things. A small wooden music box, old and scratched, but intact. The kind you wind with a key. A handwritten letter. The ink faded, but still legible. Folded carefully. Edges worn from being touched. And a photograph. Yellowed at the edges, creased down the middle. It showed a woman, young, maybe 25. Smiling in a way Vivian had never seen in any other picture. Radiant. Alive. It was her mother, Eleanor. But she wasn't alone. She was leaning against a man. Not Vivian's father. Someone else. Someone with kind eyes and rough hands. Someone who looked like he built things. Fixed things. Loved things. Vivian's breath caught. Alex stepped closer, looked at the photograph. His face went pale. "That's my father." His voice was barely a whisper. Vivian's head snapped toward him. "What?" "The man in the picture. That's my dad." "I don't understand." "How?" "That's my mother." Silence filled the room like water filling a sinking ship. Slow, suffocating. Vivian reached into the safe with shaking hands and picked up the letter. The handwriting was her mother's. She'd know it anywhere. Delicate loops. Careful strokes. She unfolded it. Read the first line. Tears blurred her vision. "Why did you know how to open this?" Her voice was hollow. Alex looked at the safe. At the lock mechanism. "I didn't use a code. I listened. I felt the vibrations. The locking mechanism is custom, handmade. One of a kind. My father was a locksmith before he retired. Not the kind who duplicates keys at the hardware store. The kind who made specialty safes for collectors. For people with secrets. He only made a few in his entire career. He always said his safes weren't about strength. They weren't about steel walls. They were about understanding. You had to listen to them. Feel them. Know what the person who locked it wanted to protect. And you knew this one. I didn't. Not exactly. But I recognized the sound. The pattern of the tumblers. My father only made 3 safes like this in his entire life. He refused to talk about one of them. Said it was for someone he loved. Someone he couldn't keep. Alex's voice cracked. I think this was it. Vivian looked at the photograph again, at her mother's smile, at the way Eleanor leaned into Alex's father, like he was the only solid thing in the world. She felt something break inside her chest, not her heart. That had been broken for years. This was deeper. This was the lock around her heart, finally giving way. 3 days earlier, Vivian had been standing in the storage archives in the basement of Monroe Corp. The air smelled like dust and old paper. Boxes were stacked floor to ceiling, financial records from decades past. Old furniture. Equipment from projects long abandoned. And in the far corner, under a canvas tarp, the safe. She'd been looking for something else, an old contract her legal team needed. But when she pulled back the tarp and saw the safe, something stopped her. She remembered it, vaguely. From childhood. A shape in the corner of her father's study. Something she wasn't allowed to touch. He'd kept it there for years. Then one day, it vanished. She'd assumed he'd thrown it away, gotten rid of it like he got rid of everything that reminded him of her mother. The paintings, the photographs, the jewelry, all of it gone. But no, he'd just hidden it. Locked it away where no one would see it. Vivian had it moved to her office that afternoon. It took 3 maintenance workers to carry it. Solid steel, heavy, old-fashioned. She had them place it near the window, right where everyone who entered would see it. A conversation piece, an oddity, a challenge. She sent the email that evening. Casual, almost mocking. A company-wide message with a photo attached. The safe, the dare. Anyone who could open it would get dinner with the CEO. She knew no one would try. She knew it was impossible. The email reached the facilities department by evening. Cleaning staff. Security guards. Most people ignored it. Thought it was a joke. But Alex saw it. He was sitting in the break room on his lunch hour at 1 in the morning. He'd just finished mopping the executive suites. His back ached. He checked his phone. Company-wide message. He almost deleted it. Then he saw the photo. The safe. His stomach dropped. He knew that design. He'd seen his father's sketches. Seen blueprints in old notebooks. Heard stories late at night when his father had too much whiskey. A woman named Eleanor. A safe built not to protect valuables but to preserve love. A relationship that couldn't survive. Alex didn't sleep that day. He went home. Put Ellie on the school bus. Watched her wave. Then sat at his kitchen table staring at his phone. At the photo. He could walk away. Pretend he never saw it. Let it stay locked. Let the past stay buried. But something pulled at him. A feeling he couldn't name. Like fate had put him in that building for a reason. He called his supervisor that afternoon. Asked to switch shifts. Night duty, on the 49th floor. Executive wing. His supervisor was surprised. No one wanted that shift. Too quiet. Too isolating. But Alex insisted. He started that night. The first 2 nights, he just cleaned. Worked quietly. Methodically. But his eyes kept drifting to the safe. On the 3rd night, Vivian worked late. She stayed past midnight. Alex came in to empty the trash. She barely looked at him. Just waved him in. He moved quietly, but his eyes kept drifting to the safe. And when he thought she wasn't watching, he stepped closer, placed his hand on the metal. Felt the vibrations. That's when she spoke. "You're not going to try, are you?" He turned. She was watching him now. "I'm just cleaning, ma'am. But you know what it is. Everyone knows. You sent the email, and you're interested." Alex hesitated, then nodded. "I am." "Why?" Because I think my father made this. Vivian stood, walked over, looked at him like she was seeing him for the first time. Then, open it. He did. The letter was written in careful, aching script. Vivian read it aloud, her voice breaking with every line. Her mother had written it 23 years ago, before Vivian was born. Before Eleanor married Vivian's father, it was a goodbye letter to a man named Samuel Carter, Alex's father. Eleanor and Samuel had met when she was 25. She'd hired him to install a lock on her apartment after a break-in. He'd arrived with tools and a quiet smile. They talked while he worked. About nothing. About everything. He came back the next day to check his work. She offered him coffee. He stayed. Drank it slowly. They talked for 2 hours. He came back again, said he wanted to make sure she felt safe. She invited him in. They talked for 4 hours. He kept coming back. She kept inviting him in. They fell in love. Slowly, carefully, the way people do when they know the world won't let them keep it. Eleanor came from money. Old money. Her family had expectations, a marriage already arranged with a man from another wealthy family. A merger disguised as romance. She tried to run, tried to convince her father to let her choose her own life. He refused, threatened to disown her, to ruin Samuel, to make sure he never worked again. Eleanor was trapped, so she made a choice. The only choice she felt she had. She married the man her family chose, Vivian's father, Richard Monroe. A cold man who saw her as an asset, not a person. She lived in that marriage for 14 years, had Vivian, raised her as best she could, but the sadness never left her eyes. Before she got sick, before the cancer took hold, she reached out to Samuel one last time, asked him to make her a safe. One final gift. A place to store the truth. The memory of what love felt like. Samuel built it, poured everything into it. He brought it to her in secret. She locked away the music box he'd given her, the photograph they'd taken on a stolen afternoon, and the letter that said, even though she couldn't be with him, she'd never stopped loving him. She died 6 months later. Samuel never remarried. Raised Alex alone, taught him the trade. Told him stories sometimes, late at night, about a woman with the saddest eyes, but never said her name. Just the feeling, the loss. Alex sank into a chair. He looked at Vivian. She looked back. 2 strangers connected by a love that never got to exist. They loved each other. Vivian's voice was hollow, and my father destroyed it. He didn't destroy it. Alex's voice was soft. He just locked it away. But it's still here. It survived. Why does that matter? Because you're here. And so am I. Maybe this is their love getting a second chance. Vivian didn't respond. She picked up the music box, turned the key. A melody filled the office. Soft, melancholy, beautiful. She closed her eyes. For the first time in years, she let herself feel something other than control. She felt grief. She felt anger. She felt the weight of a love her mother never got to keep. And beneath it, she felt something else. Hope. Over the next 2 weeks, something shifted between them. Vivian started noticing Alex. Really noticing him. Not as the janitor, but as a person. She noticed the way he moved through the building with quiet efficiency. Never rushed. Never careless. She noticed the way he spoke to people. The security guards. The receptionists. He treated everyone with respect. Never looked down at anyone. She started staying late more often. not because she had work, but because she wanted to see him, wanted to talk to him. One night, she asked him about his daughter. His face lit up, transformed completely. He pulled out his phone, showed her pictures. Ellie at the park, Ellie holding a drawing, Ellie asleep with a book on her chest. Vivian felt something crack open inside her. She's beautiful. She's everything. Alex's voice was full of love, so pure it hurt to hear. It must be hard, raising her alone. It is. Some days I don't know if I'm doing it right, but I wouldn't trade it. She's the reason I wake up, the reason I keep going. Vivian looked at him, at this man who'd been invisible weeks ago, and now he was the only person she wanted to see. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you really open the safe? Alex was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. Small and sad, because I thought maybe if I understood what my father protected, I'd understand why he was so sad. And maybe I'd stop being sad too. Did it work? I don't know yet, but I think maybe it's starting to. Vivian nodded. Then did something she never did. She sat down on the floor, right there in her office. In her designer's suit, she sat on the floor next to the janitor, and she asked him to tell her about his father. So he did. He told her about Samuel Carter, about his hands, rough and scarred from metalwork, about his voice, low and gentle, about the way he'd hum while he worked, the same melody from the music box. He told her about growing up in a small workshop, about learning to listen to locks, about understanding that security wasn't about force, it was about trust. He told her about his brother, about the guilt that still woke him up, about running from everything because he couldn't stand to see another lock, another cage, another thing that kept people apart. Vivian listened. Didn't interrupt, didn't check her phone, just listened. And when he finished, she told him about her mother, about the way Eleanor used to sing to her at night, about the way her father grew colder after Eleanor died, about the way Vivian learned to be cold too, because cold meant safe, but cold also meant alone. I don't want to be cold anymore. Her voice was barely a whisper. I don't want to spend my life behind walls. Alex looked at her, at this woman who terrified most people, and he saw what everyone missed. She was just as scared as he was. Then don't be. You get to choose who you are. What if I don't know how? Then figure it out. One day at a time. The next morning, Vivian invited Alex to lunch. She sent him a text, direct, simple. Not as a boss to an employee, as one person to another. He hesitated, then agreed. They met at a small cafe 2 blocks from the office. Nothing fancy, just coffee and sandwiches. No one from the company saw them. It was just 2 people, talking, laughing, learning. She asked about Ellie, what she liked, what she was learning. He asked about her work, the human parts, the challenges. She told him about the pressure, the expectations, the loneliness of leadership, how every decision felt like it carried the weight of hundreds of lives. He told her about the peace he'd found in simple work, in being present, in letting go of the need to be important, in finding meaning in small moments, in Ellie's laughter, in a job well done. When they walked back, Vivian felt lighter, like she'd put down a weight she'd been carrying for years. That night, she went down to the basement, to the archives. Alex was there, cleaning, organizing. She watched him, then stepped inside. What are you doing down here? He looked up, smiled. fixing something. He gestured to a workbench. The music box sat there, disassembled. Pieces spread out carefully. It was broken. The spring was worn. I thought maybe I could repair it. Vivian moved closer, watched his hands. Steady. Precise. Why? Because it mattered to someone. To your mother. To my father. And I think it should still work. She sat down across from him, watched him work. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was comfortable. After a while, she spoke. I think you're fixing more than the music box. He looked up, met her eyes. Maybe. Is that okay? Yeah. I think it is. Is it working? I think so. I think for the first time, something inside me is starting to work right. The music box clicked. The mechanism engaged. The melody started. Soft and clear. Perfect. Vivian smiled. A real smile. Not the cold mask. A genuine smile. And Alex realized something. He was falling in love with her. 3 weeks later, Vivian received a notification from HR. There was going to be an employee appreciation event. Families were invited. She'd normally skip it, but this time she decided to go because she wanted to see Ellie. The event was held in the atrium. Balloons. Food. Kids running around. Vivian arrived late, found Alex near the windows, and next to him, a little girl with paint-stained hands and a bright smile. Ellie. Vivian walked over, her heart pounding. Alex saw her. His face softened. Vivian, this is Ellie. Ellie. This is Miss Monroe. You can call me Vivian. Ellie looked up at her, studied her with brutal honesty. You're the lady my dad talks about. Vivian blinked. He talks about me? All the time. He says you're sad, but you're trying not to be. He says you're brave. Vivian's throat tightened. She knelt down. Your dad is very smart. I know. Ellie grinned, then held out a piece of paper. I made this for you. It was a drawing, crayon and marker. A woman with long hair standing next to a man. And between them, a little girl. At the top, family. Vivian took the drawing, stared at it, felt something break open completely. Not pain. Something warm. Hope. Thank you, Ellie. This is the most beautiful thing anyone's ever given me. You're welcome. My dad smiles when he talks about you. He doesn't smile a lot. So, I think you're important. Alex put a hand on Ellie's shoulder, looked at Vivian. She looked back, and in that moment, everything changed. Over the next month, Vivian and Alex grew closer. She started adjusting her schedule, leaving work earlier, meeting him for coffee, visiting him and Ellie on weekends. She taught Ellie about confidence, about being strong. Ellie taught Vivian about joy, about silliness, about letting go. Alex taught them both about patience, about presence, about love. But not everyone was happy. Rumors started spreading through the office. The CEO was involved with a janitor. The board of directors called a meeting, demanded an explanation. Vivian sat at the head of the table, looked at 12 faces staring with judgment. This is inappropriate, Vivian. You're risking the company's reputation. I'm risking nothing. You're dating an employee, a subordinate. It's a scandal. He's not my subordinate. He's a human being, and what I do in my personal life is my business. Not when it affects Monroe Corp. Your father would never. My father died alone. He built this company on control and fear. And he died miserable. I'm not going to do the same. Then maybe you're not fit to lead. Vivian stood, looked around the table. Maybe I'm not. Or maybe I'm exactly what this company needs. Someone who remembers that businesses are made of people. But if you disagree, you're welcome to replace me, because I finally have something worth more than this job. She walked out, went to her office, picked up the music box, wound it, let the melody fill the room, and made a decision. The next morning, she sent an email, company-wide, short, direct, to everyone at Monroe Corp. I've spent my life trying to be perfect, trying to be untouchable, but I've learned something. Perfection is just another word for loneliness. I'm choosing connection over control, humanity over image. And if that makes me unfit to lead, then so be it. I'd rather be real than respected. The response was immediate. Some were supportive, others furious. The board threatened to remove her. She didn't care. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of losing something, because she'd finally found something worth keeping. That evening, Alex showed up at her office. She was packing, just in case. He knocked. You didn't have to risk your job for me. Yes, I did. They might fire you. I've lost everything before. I survived. I rebuilt. And now, I found you. So I'm not losing anything. I'm gaining everything. I love you. She smiled, tears on her cheeks. I know. That's it? No. She closed the space between them. I love you too. I've loved you since you opened that safe. Since you showed me that locked things can open. That broken things can be fixed. He kissed her. And for the first time, Vivian felt home. 2 months later, Vivian organized a small dinner. Private. Intimate. Alex. Ellie. A couple of trusted colleagues. She set up a table in her office. The safe sat nearby, empty but significant. During dinner, Vivian stood. I want to thank you all for being here, for supporting me, for reminding me that life is more than work, more than image, more than fear. She walked to the safe, opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper. She read it aloud. This isn't because of a bet or a challenge. It's because for the first time, I want the door to my heart to be open. She looked at Alex. He stood, walked over, pulled out a small box, opened it. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant. And for the first time, I'm opening something without being afraid of what's inside. Ellie gasped, started crying. Happy tears. Vivian laughed, tears streaming. Is that a yes? That's a yes. They got married on the roof of Monroe Corp. No grand ceremony. Just the people who mattered. Ellie stood between them, holding their hands. The music box played. The same melody. Vivian wore a simple white dress. Alex wore a suit. They said their vows. Their own. Promises to be present. To be honest. To choose each other. Every day. When it was done, Alex whispered, I finally understand why my father built that safe. Why? Because some things are worth protecting. Not with locks, but with love. 6 months later, the three of them sat in their shared office. Vivian had made Alex head of corporate security. Ellie sat at the desk, drawing, writing poetry, inspired by the music box, by the story of Eleanor and Samuel. by love that survived. Vivian had started a foundation, named after Eleanor. It helped single mothers, kids without parents, people who needed hope. Alex ran security for it. The safe still sat in the corner, but different now. Not locked. The door hung open. Inside, they'd placed new things. Photos of them. Drawings from Ellie. Letters they wrote to each other. Reminders of what mattered. On the safe's door, a plaque. Some safes are built not to protect money, but to preserve love. And every night before they left, Vivian would wind the music box, let the melody play, close her eyes, and thank her mother for leaving behind the one thing that couldn't be locked away: hope.